First question, can you share a little bit about what inspired this film, what the creative spark was?
The main thing was I just wanted to do something quick. The previous feature film I did was near Blake. It was scripted, 90 pages long, and it took a long time to make. And this one with Jen, after working with her, I really just wanted to do something where it was more loose in feel and an approach. And we had a $500 camera, and we just basically had a three-man crew and just went out and just made this film. And it was a process of the creation which I wanted to experiment with and not having something as structured as the other one.
And Jen, how are you casting the film? Was it a traditional casting process? Was it a little more?
I think we were eating noodle soup or something together in the Lower East Side and started talking about making a movie that was a little bit more unscripted. Just kind of went from there.
It was pretty much, there was a lot of improvisation. And can you tell us a little bit of what the process was like on set and how you approached each scene?
Definitely. It was all improv. I wrote about an 8-page treatment outlining the story and the loose scenarios that she would get into. And then Jen and I, over the course of about a month, kind of fleshed things out. And every day we went to the set just having an idea in mind and brought the other actors in who were part of it and kind of gave them about a day's prep about what the scene would be about. And we just went in and shot a lot of different scenarios. Actually, we shot about 6 different endings that never made it. We never used any of them. And we had her changing in different outfits for the ending, in her red outfit and her blue outfit. We shot 3 different endings with each outfit, just so I had all these options, and we didn't use them. But it was something that experimental. It's definitely an experimental film where we wanted to approach it in terms of story and acting and improv, just going everything where we didn't have any limitations. We could just do what we wanted.
Mm-hmm. And Ken, when did you come aboard? When did you start working on the score?
It was after when we saw that first rough cut. It was, how long ago was that? It took about a month or so? 2 months to do the score?
2 months to do the score.
Yeah, it took about 2 months to do the score.
And what was that process like? Was Gary involved, or did you just lock yourself away? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought, for me, I think it was one of the most difficult scores that I've done, just because the music functions in a different way in the film than I think in regular sort of narrative development, where there's so many plot points along the way that as long as the music is sort of amplifying the plot points along the way, that you're okay. But I felt with this, the music, I mean, the score was definitely louder in the movie, which I liked, but it really, the function was really to sort of keep the momentum going and not be too overbearing, but at the same time keep the thrust, you know what I mean? Keep the thrust of the film moving forward. And it was really tough because it wasn't like, you know, there's some romance scenes, so you write some nice piano romance music, and basically a lot of it becomes, you know, generic. But with this sort of thing, like the slightest little chord moment when Jen looks, it was like, oh no, that's, you know. So really, I mean, there were scenes, the ending scene with Jen running, I mean, I did 20 drafts of that before we, you know, found something they were really happy about. So it was really, you know, I thought it was very challenging and very rewarding at the same time. Oh yeah, I had a dartboard up with Gary's picture on it. And every time I would send like draft number 17 to him, and be like, it's great except for this big thing at the end doesn't work at all. So then I set up an altar for him too with this picture on. We burned incense, and one of those worked, and we finally got through the score.
Jen, what sort of things were you drawing from, you know, as this character took shape? What were you looking toward? I mean, were you drawing from what Gary was giving you? Did you have your own process?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes out quite clearly in the film that Alice in Wonderland is a huge inspiration. Insomnia, the city, and yeah, the experience of losing a friend very young.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the elements mixed together.
And Gary, I'm sure people are just curious about some of the things like how many days did you shoot?
Initially, we planned to shoot about 2 weeks. We ended up shooting 3, and then my DP left because I met my DP in Brooklyn, Jason Warner, who was awesome, but then he left. He flew in from Colorado to do the film. So we had pickups and reshoots, I think, about 3 months later, and then finished up 6 months later with some other shots. where I went and finished with the same camera, just shot a few extra pickups. But as we were figuring out the story in post, we realized there were certain things we had to use to tie together a little bit more, more of a structure. So we had to go shoot certain shots of her doing just one little thing, her walking one little spot there, turning the corner or something, to put two different scenarios together, to tie them together and things.
Right. Do we have any questions from the audience?
What did you shoot on? What camera?
We used the HV30 for the most part, and then the D90 just to do the stills. Like there's certain kind of still framed motion things going on that we did. I have to say real quick though, Jen, as we were shooting, because her day job, she wouldn't get to set until like 6 at night, and we'd shoot till about midnight or 1 in the morning or 2. So she actually started as the shoot went on, was really sleep deprived, and she started becoming Lucy, and she's just like, whoa, I'm not sure I am. And she'd get home at 2 in the morning and have to get up at 5 to go to work. So I mean, she was really sleep, so I thank you.
Any other questions? Email?
What was the inspiration for the 1, 2, 3? It was really, really interesting.
Thank you. We mainly in post realized we started setting up motifs of things happening in threes. She follows this person 3 times, and we just started creating a pattern. We wanted her to repeat something in her head, and we had different voiceover options of what she would be saying. But 1, 2, 3 stuck the most, and it seemed like it went towards everything else that happened. A lot of things happen in this movie that in threes. You might not catch the first time around, the second time if you watch, you'll see things happen in threes.
I noticed you're holding a DVD in your hand. What are some of the distribution options or strategies that you have in mind for this film?
Right now, I'm still in the film festival circuit, but I made copies. I'm selling them on my website for $14.99 and here today for $10 just to get it out there. And the thing is, with the whole scene now, you don't know if you're going to get a deal or not. And I made this film. The budget was about, at the end of the day, including pressing the DVD, is about $3,000. So I figure I sell a few, I'll break even, which is fine, and then it keeps me going and keeps me being able to make films like this.
And in what ways are you building an audience for this film?
It was in pre-production right when we started. I'm a big Facebook and Twitter person, so most people know me. And so I just announced it and started sharing the process. Thank you for including me on the new read, which I got a huge, big following, just to kind of see people follow this process about, oh, this guy's making a film, he has no clue what the story is. Kind of interesting. We'll see what happens. And they just saw us, formulating the story in post, and it came from there a whole year ahead of time, just building slowly, people discovering it like that.
Right. Any other questions from the audience? Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, the movie had some great locations, and I was just curious if you had like permission or if it was guerrilla style.
It was pretty much guerrilla style. Every place we scouted ahead of time. We knew certain spots of the night weren't populated, and we make sure and go there like the night before or a week before, and kind of scout to see the time that we were going to shoot, to make sure that was the time when no one would be there. We got really lucky with Central Park and the band show when she's doing her performance on stage. That's middle of Central Park. I've seen like Disney movies shot there. Enchanted used it for their film. So, but that night we just had like 2 skaters just skateboarding, and then when they left, we just went up there and started shooting. What was that? And raccoon. Yes, the raccoon was there watching us.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Did you use any lighting, or was it all just practical lighting?
A lot of it was practical. We did have an on-camera light, just a little panel that Jason used, and we used it at night. It looks, this is a little darker than the actual film with the projection, I think, but for the most part, it is pretty dark. It almost seems like, and I'm not trying to compare myself to Michael Mann's Miami Vice, but just that nighttime, not film, not really HD, kind of hybrid look kind of thing. So I couldn't afford it, and I didn't want it to look lit anyways. I wanted to feel more documentary stuff, like it was really happening. There was no lights showing, certain things.
Now, I've read online that this is actually the first part of a trilogy that follows the theme of loneliness.
Yeah.
Have those other 2 been kind of mapped out in any way, or?
The third one with Jen has been, and it's going to take place in the South, which I'm excited about. I've shot a few films in New York now, so I'm really excited to move down into the South, the southern states. And the second one is not going to really feature Jen as a main character. She might be a supporting character. She'll play different people in the other films. But the second one is also mapped out. I'm hoping to shoot it by the end of the year.
Any other questions from the audience? He's from Gregory, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm actually curious, the editing process, how long did that take? Because I'm assuming that you had footage and like you said, you had all these options that you had shot. I mean, what was the process? What was the, how did you tie it all together? What, did you work from the voiceover?
So we had the treatment, we went out and shot all the scenarios. We had about, I think, 35 hours of footage or something. And the whole process, I think, took about, was it 6 months or so, you think? Not sure, okay. I know I had a rough cut by about 2 months, and we tested it. And we shot the film before she recorded any voiceover. She just, after we had wrapped the film, we sent her off, and she just wrote a bunch of sketch voiceovers, different things, just, stream of consciousness things. And I pick and chose, like, in maybe what I thought would work. We plopped it in, and we did the test screening. Based on the feedback, what made sense, what was slow, what was kind of confusing, I sent her back and had her re-record a new voiceover. And we used that and we tested a second cut. And then we did that again for a third cut until we narrowed down what voiceovers worked, what really didn't, and what kind of led to the theme. And then after I locked the cut, we had to record a final voiceover to make sure like certain things would tie together a little bit more and for cleaner sound. Even though we didn't record in a sound booth, it was very do-it-yourself. She just sat in her Brooklyn apartment on her husband's little recorder. And if you listen closely, you hear birds chirping in the background and things like that, but I thought it went to the story anyways, so.
Any questions from the audience? Go ahead.
Yeah, how many other movies have you done?
Yeah, that's actually something I want to know about. Because you have a wildly varied filmography. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I did 2 short films before I did my first feature film, New York Lake, which is just a drama, an ensemble drama, just following different characters in New York. After that, I got hired to direct a swamp cannibal movie called Dismal, where it's just a bunch of college kids that go off into the swamps and they get hunted down by these cannibal guys and stuff. I took the money. I definitely took the money for that one. And then I did New York, What's Up Lovely? And after that one, I got hired to do Death of the Dead, which is coming out at the end of this year, I think in the fall, which is a martial arts zombie comedy. So I have the approach where Steven Soderbergh is one of my idols, where I don't like all his films, but I love his approach. One for me, one for them. He'll be hired to do something, and then he has enough money, or he'll take the time off to make his own personal art house type films, and he can kind of straddle the line on doing both things, and I hope to do that on a larger scale eventually. But I really enjoy doing genre films. I love doing art house film. I'm going to do a musical, and I'm all over the place, but I kind of like that.
Awesome. Well, let's hear it for Gary, Jen, and Karen.